Fantasy Baseball Neck, everybody. This is Austin, and we're specifically here to talk about Trea Turner's transition from the LA Dodgers to the Philadelphia Phillies. The LA Dodgers were the number one team in offensive productivity last season, whereas the Philadelphia Phillies were seventh. There was a 100-run difference, but Trea Turner was a big part of the fact that the LA Dodgers scored that many runs. He batted anywhere between first, second, and third with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in that lineup last season. So kind of how does that transition to the Philadelphia Phillies moving forward in 2023? And this is what's really interesting. So everyone's league is different, and why this show is different, and why I help in this way is that I'm shown this information that you're seeing right now: runs, total bases, RBIs, game-winning RBIs, useless. Walks, strikeouts, stolen bases, and cycles, which is also useless. You're seeing something completely different. Why this is helpful is that I'm going to teach you a universal concepts to be able to look in between the lines and better evaluate players so that we can both make more educated and confident decisions on draft day and during trade evaluations and this, that, and the other. So we can both see that Trea Turner was the number 9 overall productive player in baseball this past season, but kind of what's hiding under this? Is he truly this valuable? He's currently ranked 16th overall in average draft position, so he's around he's the 16th spot with Shane Bieber, Bregman, Urias, and Verlander surrounding him in his position. So again, is he worth the 16th overall draft spot as the number 1 shortstop in baseball? Again, let's look into that. So you're seeing this information via your desktop or phone, whatever it is. This is not valuable to us. What you want to do is you want to specifically go to a website that is super inclusive, so it has all of the information that we basically see here. And sometimes you'll have to calculate your own stuff, but if you're able to use Microsoft Excel, or if you're able to use Google Sheets, which is essentially the knockoff version of that, we're able to really derive the information that's super valuable to us as fantasy baseball managers. So if I sort this by fantasy points that was scored in the way to this league, this will be the exact same list of points in a row. So you can see, again, Trea Turner's number 9 down there, but how valuable is he? So let's focus on the columns specifically that will help us better determine individual productivity. Okay, so you want home runs are very important. I know that's the flagship thing that everybody wants to talk about. Now that's what makes ESPN, but home runs are extra important because it really is a good representation of a player's ability to generate offense on their own. Players that do not hit 20 home runs or more are players who are always stuck on base and require players behind them to knock them around to score bonus points. Essentially, players who hit 20 home runs and above are not only hitting those 20 plus home runs, but they're hitting balls off the fence. They're hitting balls into the gap. They're hitting balls extra hard. And just generally generating more offense for them and passive bonus stats like runners that are already on base. They're more independent. The more home runs that a player hits, the more independent they are, and that's really how you have to look at it. Next is stolen bases. So let's look at Trea Turner specifically. So Trea Turner has 21 home runs. And because he has 27 stolen bases, you can look at him as a more independent player because when he gets those singles or he gets those doubles, whatever, when he's getting on base, he's independently putting himself into a position to score more points than the average bear because he's faster than the average bear. Let's think about just simply like hit a ball down third base line. Many players in the league will get thrown out, not even cure a single or an opportunity to get on base. Trea Turner legs it out. Let's say that he gets on, now that he's on first base, he has the ability to steal second base. Now I can look at that and say, oh, he stole 27 bases last season, but how many runs did that incur And how many runs did that produce on top of that? So he scored 101 runs last season, but how many runs did he score last season because he was able to steal bases? And when he was on first base, how many more runs was he able to score? Because with one out, he was able to leg first to third with a single to right field or a single to left field, and then get an earn a run on the way home with the next batter on a flyout because he was that much faster. He's putting himself into position to score to earn those dependent stats. So even though he is an independent player, he is fast. He is creating offense to better make use of and have the opportunity to score those dependent points, which are like runs, essentially. The next is you want to kind of keep an eyeball on average. Any player that dips below 240 average is a player that is going to dip below the 1 through 3 and surely the 1 through 5 spots in the batting order, regardless of how powerful you are. And a couple exceptions with some of the dumb managers who throw Kyle Schwarber at the number 1 spot for the Phillies. We won't go there, or at least we'll talk about it later. But average, not something super duper important. You just want to make sure that players that you're drafting are above 240 to ensure that they're staying in those primetime spots in the batting order. Anything less than that, they kind of become, a hindrance on overall productivity because they're just not putting the ball in play enough. Next, you want to specifically derive the most important stats. The most important stat is total bases. So total bases is a collective of the hits that you got in this season. How productive were they? So two players who have the same amount of hits, Aaron Judge and Dansby Swanson, had the same number of hits, 177 and 177. If I look over at their total bases, I can very easily see that Aaron Judge had more than 100 total bases than Dansby Swanson did just through his hits. Dansby Swanson had a really good year last year, but this is the true representation of who is making the most of their hits. When they're getting hits, how far are they going? How many bases are they gaining? So again, a player has the ability to gain 1 through 4 bases per hit. If they get a single, it's 1 point, double 2 points, 3 points for a triple, and 4 points for a home run. This is a true understanding overall of how productive a player is with their hits. Now let's combine the two. Let's get their total bases divided by their hits. And this gives us the values of the players who are making the absolute most of their hits, regardless of how frequent or infrequent they are. Who is getting the most of these at bats? And again, kind of why I put in this conditional format to highlight red for everyone who is below a 240 average is because they're kind of hindrances on themselves. And we can kind of look at this. Kyle Schwarber struck out 200 times last year and a 218 average and batted leadoff. Let's look at this even further. He had 46 home runs last season and only 94 RBIs, which is wild. You would think that he would be in the 130s if he was a productive player. Now, again, he's batting the leadoff spot, but he is just overall not getting on base a ton. He doesn't really even walk that much in comparison to some of his peers. Like, this is the difference. But if we look at our players, we can see, oh my gosh, Aaron Judge most likely will be one of the top players in fantasy baseball from a draft standpoint. We'll see. Aaron Judge is number 6 overall, and he's ranked as the number 2 outfielder behind Juan Soto this upcoming season. But if I look at the stats here, I can see that, wow, Mike Trout, when he played, was a whole 10th better than Aaron Judge was even this season during his at-bats. And though he had around 130 less at-bats than Aaron Judge did, when Mike Trout made contact, he was the most effective player in baseball, ignoring Kyle Schwarber because he strikes out so much. I'm never going to draft Kyle Schwarber. I don't care how well he did last year. He hit 46 home runs. He's a 230 average for his entire career. He's not fast. He doesn't make sense. I'm just going to move past Kyle Schwarber. But again, making sure that you're looking at total bases divided by hits gives you the ability to really focus on the players that are most most telling and most productive with their hits. So you can get a kind of look down at the guys like again like Mike Trout and Aaron Judge right there. Then it's a good representation of like, oh, this is why I put the average case in there, because who all is highlighted red and below 240 players that aren't worth owning. So Anthony Rizzo was technically the fourth best player in all of baseball this past season per hit, but he's getting hits so infrequently that he's not, worth rostering, because he's not productive. There's not enough volume to make up for it. Same thing with Rowdy Tellez, and you can even get down here to the Max Muncies and the Eugenio Suarez's, the Willie Adames, this, that, and the Hunter Renfroe. So if we're looking at the players that really mean a lot, it really shows the value, per at bat. So Jordan Alvarez and Matt Olson, though they were separated by 30 points, and Jordan Alvarez had way less at bats because he's in and off the IL his entire career, we can see that per at bat, Jordan Alvarez and Matt Olson were pretty much neck and neck from a productivity standpoint per at bat. So if I go up to these, these rankings and I look up, where was Jordan Alvarez? He's ranked 30th. And let's say that if he is Jordan Alvarez is 30th and Matt Olson is 36th. You can say and figure out like, man, they were like neck and neck. So at this point, we can figure out like in the draft with your second or third pick, whatever this is, is your first outfielder or grabbing a first baseman meaning more, because though these players have like very different stats, like they're separated by a decent amount of actual like a 30 point difference, we can see that they were pretty much producing the exact same throughout the year. So, and then overall, I think that the number one most productive just about player in all of baseball last year with absolutely no help was Austin Riley. So a preview to the most underrated player in all of baseball last year, who I go for in every league, is Austin Riley. And we can see that, with 600 plus at bats, healthy like all of these other guys around him, he had the second most total bases behind Aaron Judge. He had around 70 less total bases total, and almost hit 40 home runs. But you can see 40 home runs and only 93 RBIs. There was just no one on base when he came up to hit. So this is a player that we can see and directly highlight as undervalued, because he scored 200 less points than Aaron Judge did, but really kept track from a total base and total base per hit perspective. So it's a really good way to nominate and figure out who's most valuable. Specifically looking back at Trea Turner, Trea Turner's ranked 13th or 12th overall in total bases. He also has 652 at bats. Death, taxes, and Marcus Semien leading the league in at bats is what we can expect with Trea Turner always in the top three as well. So looking at Trea Turner, he's 12th overall in total bases, and that's great. But let's go at total bases per hit. If we're going to do this, he goes down all the way. He rosters all the way down to 80th. So right now, Trea Turner is only averaging 1.57 bases per hit, but he has so many hits that he's kind of death by a million paper cuts. And we talked about how fast he is. He had the second most hits in all of baseball, and what's good is that right in front of him and right next to him in the batting order was the number one amount of hits in baseball, being Freddie Freeman. But he, being how fast he is, really put himself into a position to score more than anyone else. And those runs came along that's really the stat there is, though he's not getting as much productivity out of per at bat, he's stealing bases. He's going from first to third. He's scoring on short fly balls, to the outfield from third base. This is a player that's kind of breaks the rule by saying he has so many at bats, and he is the absolute standard for health. Knock on wood sort of thing. He's the standard for health. He plays every single day. This is just a player that you can always expect to like not necessarily wow you. Like he's never going to score 20 points in a day or however you guys, however your points league goes. He's never going to score 10 points in a day or 15 points in a day, but he's going to almost always walk away with 4-5. He's one of the highest average per game players because he just does everything right. He runs super efficiently. He's a really good base runner. Run is kind of the thing here. And he's going to play every day again in Philadelphia and hit in the 1 or 2 spot. So we can expect, I think he's going to have the exact same production in Philadelphia that he will that he did in LA with maybe a minor drop off. So let's look at that roster. Kyle Schwarber doesn't make any sense at leadoff. I expect him to drop down in the order because now they have Trea Turner. He is a true leadoff guy hitting 20-plus home runs. This is just someone that you want taking more at bats than Kyle Schwarber because he's going to hit 300-plus or right around 300 and do all of the right things. I expect the Phillies to probably keep Schwarber at the between the 2 and the 4 spot, given that Bryce Harper has just had Tommy John. But Nick Castellanos should be higher up in the lineup. This is going to be another good run producing roster. I don't know if they'll make up the 100-run difference that LA did this past year, but again, Trea Turner was a huge part of that. They'll maybe break even. So moving over again, 100-run difference between LA and Philadelphia, and we can overall determine that the players like Trea Turner and their consistency, though he's not getting the absolute most out of his hits per at bat, it's impossible to measure the impact that he has on the base the base paths once he gets on base. It's a player that I think it's super safe. No one has ever scoffed at a Trea Turner early draft, early bid for Trea Turner. There's a lot of players. What's good for us, there's a lot of players still that are above Trea Turner that should not be there, that are not as valuable as him. So I would say that Trea Turner is not, you would stretch for Trea Turner. He's an easy grab at shortstop, given that the only player I think that could keep up with him is a Fernando Tatis, but Fernando Tatis, he is so reckless with his body, can't really expect him to be healthy for an entire season. And though Fernando Tatis will average more points per total base, he's just a player that he's not going to hit for as high of an average. So it's really like Fernando is going to get higher quality hits, but he's going to get 50 less hits than Trea over the season. So, you take that as you will. That's my opinion. But yeah, well, I'd say that Trea Turner moving to Philadelphia in the 16th spot, good overall. I would take them and be happy about it. So it's my show today. I hope everyone enjoyed it. If anyone has questions, please send them my way. I know that I want these videos to be helpful. So if you have any sort of, helpful criticism of any sort, please let me know so I can make the most of both of our time. So again, thank you so much for your time and see you later, guys. Bye.